Hi, Miles. Good to see you. Let's go with facts news. Carl, good to see you as well. How you doing, bro? How you been? It's been a while, I think, since we did the live show due to the weekend, my birthday, and then Monday I was completely wrecked to go live. But good to see, brother. How you doing? Let's go with facts news. How was your weekend, Carl? So I'm just trying to set up things before we go live. Okay, live show is pinned. Okay. Well, Miles, you're early tonight, brother. Good to see you back. Good to see you on T. How you doing? How you been? It's not too bad. I was there yesterday, but there was no live show, I think. Yeah, yesterday I didn't do a live show. Um, Due to the nights before celebrating my birthday and celebrating, what's happening in Iran, with the US completely obliterating the Iranian government. There was a lot to celebrate. And good to see you all. T. How you doing? Hi, Miles. Cocktail of choice. Cocktail of choice is always going to be a mojito for me, I'll be honest. But I use tequila instead of rum. Okay, let's do intro, disclaimer, what we're going to talk about on tonight's live, and by that time, everyone should be tuned in for the first part of the live show. By the way, if you have already liked and retweeted this live show, thanks so much to all of you. If you have done that, liked and retweeted the live show. If you haven't seen it from us, like and retweet the live shows. Now, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Mass Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday, Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, pretty much everything you should know about around essentially what's happening around the world. The disclaimer of this live show is, as always, not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And on tonight's live show, we're going to be obviously covering the Iran and US situations, the political events that are going on. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the European banks and the crypto space. We're going to go through news on tonight's live regarding the international financial watchdogs, regarding stablecoins, their perspective. We're also going to talk about tonight's live show regarding Circle and stablecoins. We're going to go through news on tonight's live show regarding Paul Atkins as well. We're going to go through news on tonight's live show regarding the Bank of Japan and their essentially news perspectives on CBDCs and the crypto space. We're also going to go through news on tonight's live of an interesting perspective regarding essentially AI agents and cryptocurrencies. We're going to go through news on tonight's live also regarding essentially Bitcoin attempting to hold its ground during this war. We're also going to go through news on tonight's live regarding essentially Bitcoin mining corporations, and the good and the bad. We're also going to go through news on tonight's live regarding CFTC, There's also news to go through on tonight's live regarding Ondo Finance as well, regarding tokenization. We've got news regarding Visa and essentially bridge plan. There's a lot of news to cover on tonight's live show. We've also got news regarding the US dollar, essentially crypto, gold, and the war scenario situations happening right now. We've got news on tonight's live regarding Australia to go through as well. We got CBDC news regarding house bills to go through on tonight's live. We got essentially the Clarity Act news to go through on tonight's live. We've got Ripple news to go through on tonight's live. Quite a bit of news to cover on tonight's live because so much has happened over the weekend and essentially yesterday and even today and going forward. So much is going to be happening around the world that there's going to be a lot of news to cover on this live show going beyond. Now, before we cover any of this news, essentially, the first news we are going to go through on tonight's live is regarding the Iranian, essentially, regarding cryptocurrencies, the crypto flow in the US, and everything that's going on. Before we go through that, let's go to the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news. So let's see where we were at inside the comment section. We were here, I think. What are your thoughts on ACH? They have increased their supply. I think, is that correct? If they have increased their supply, it's probably because it was locked and it had to be essentially released into the market space. So it is something that a lot of crypto projects do. You know, they don't release their total supply, they release them bit by bit. It's perfectly fine. As long as they don't dump their entire bag on the market space, that's perfectly fine, I would say. Not in any sort of advice whatsoever. And good evening, Miles. How you doing? I'm doing great, Callie. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Free and Feather. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Solomon. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening, Miles and CMF. Manny. Good to see you as well. How you doing? How long do you think the war will last? Great question, Messi. How long do I think this war will last? According to Trump, it will last up to 4 weeks. Essentially, is what they're presuming. But they didn't think, it was going to be this easy for them. Because Iran for 47 years, the Islamic Republic of Iran for 47 years has been chanting death to America, death to Israel, and that essentially they would obliterate Israel and obliterate the US if they could, and so on. And they threw more death wishes against Trump and the US in the recent days up until within the first day of the war, the Islamic leader of Iran was completely turned into dust. Within 6 hours of that war, that man that was throwing the most amount of threats for 47 years, his entire regime was throwing threats for 47 years, he got obliterated into dust within the 6 hours of the war. Even Trump didn't expect it for it to be that soon for that man to die. Honestly, I've got to say, thank you to Trump and thank you to Israel because they are the only two people you could pretty much say that, thank you to Netanyahu, Bibi, and thank you to Trump because they're the only two people or the only two countries that actually took action against this cancerous regime. Honestly, thank you so much to Israel and the US. And some people might hate me saying that, some people might like me saying that. I couldn't care less because for 47 years, nobody cared about the Iranian people. Not a single person on this planet cared about, in terms of a high political power, nobody cared about the Iranian people. Not a single person cared about the Iranian people. For 47 years, my people suffered under this Islamic regime. And they're finally, day by day, getting hope of freedom is pretty much down the road now. So I'm so happy that somebody like Trump and Netanyahu finally took action against this treacherous, cancerous regime and removing, first of all, Ali Khamenei, who is a rat and he's burning in hell right now, and that he was an absolute waste of oxygen. And I'm so happy Trump and essentially Bibi Netanyahu took care of that. I'll be very honest. I'm ecstatic. We were all celebrating this. All Iranians around the world were celebrating this. This is what you call a true leader when it comes to the US. Finally, the US has a true leader because the US used to be this powerhouse, but then it went weak with the leaders they chose back to back. And then they chose Trump. The people chose Trump. And once again, we're seeing a powerful US, someone that takes charge when there's wrongdoing in the world. So thank you for Trump, honestly. What up, Miles? And regarding this war, 4 weeks is what they're estimating. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Bull XRP, good to see you on how you doing. What up, Miles and CMF? Ray, good to see you on how you doing. Happy birthday, my friend. I know your birthday was last Sunday. I was waiting to get your opinion about the Iran news. And no problem, Carl. That's my opinion about the Iran news. Honestly, so happy for what Trump essentially has done and what Netanyahu has done. Both of them are absolute legends in my eyes for doing something that nobody else touched for 47 years. Evening, Miles and CMF. Jason, good to see you on. How you doing? Good evening, all. JP, good to see you on. How you doing? Hi, Miles and everyone. One love, good to see you on. How you doing? All our support to Iran people. Let's go, Carl. Now, a lot of things have been happening all over. This war seems strange, not like a real war, seems staged. Do you think they made deals behind closed doors with someone in Iran to get rid of the regime? Seems easy. All my support to the people of Iran as well, Miles. Let's go, T. And regarding your question, T, that this war seemed easy and maybe seemed staged. The only reason this war essentially was easy for the US and Israel is because the only people that know that the Islamic Republic of Iran is not powerful and they're completely full of shit are Iranian people. We know that the Islamic Republic of Iran is not powerful, and all they have is bluff. And all they also have is delusion. You know, when someone lies so much, it gets into their own head and they start believing their own lies. That's what happened with the Islamic Republic of Iran. They lied so much where it got to a stage, they started believing their own lies. They actually thought they were this all powerful, mighty, army that nobody could touch. Turns out they had nothing under their belts, and their leader that was chatting the most was for 47 years, pretty much, and people behind him got taken out in 6 hours. The only people that knew that this government, the Islamic Republic of Iran, is so weak are the Iranian people. And that's why we've been chanting for 47 years, please do something about these morons and remove them from Iran because they're not powerful. They are weak, essentially weak morons and weasels and rats who hide under caves, who essentially use human shields to justify, essentially, to get away with whatever they want, essentially. So that's the only reason why this war seemed pretty damn easy, because even America realized essentially the Islamic Republic of Iran, were lying. They didn't really have this essentially legendary weapon they've been talking about all these years. They had nothing under their belts because it was all bluff and delusion. That's the reason why this war was pretty damn easy for the Americans. And the best part about all of this is, remember before this war started, people were saying, oh, China and Russia will come to Iran's essentially, and help out the Iranian government. China and Russia will come out and help out the Iranian government, and then America will get stuck and they don't attack because they're afraid of Russia and they're afraid of China. And I said on live to everybody, that's a complete load of BS. I said Russia wouldn't do anything because Putin right now has his own difficulty going on with Ukraine, and he wants to stay on Trump's good side to make some sort of a deal about Ukraine. And I also said China would not get involved in this war because of international trade deals. Because if China gets sanctioned, they are the mass producers of the world, and if they can't sell a single item to the rest of the world because they're sanctioned, then their economy would collapse within 48 hours. So this is why I said before this war even started that China and Russia will not step in to help the Iranian government. And what do you know? The war started, Putin looked the other way, China looked the other way. They're both pretending to be blind because they're not stupid enough to essentially back a treacherous, cancerous regime that their days are pretty much coming to an end. And everybody, and the best part is, the funniest part about all of this, Kim Jong-un, the nut job from essentially North Korea, that man has come out during this time and said, you know what? I could become good friends with the US and Trump. Not job Kim Jong un is feeling the pressure right now because he knows that Trump took out one dictator in the first month of this year, Venezuela. He took out the second dictator, Iran, Ali Khamenei, rat. And probably Kim Jong un thought he's probably the third person to be taken out. So he came out and publicly said, you know what, I think I could become friends with the US and Trump. People are realizing that this social media, TikTok, essentially videos people have been making over the years saying the US is weak or Russia and China are stronger, Russia and China and Iran will take over, and so on. It turns out they had nothing under their belts, which is exactly what I said from day one. I said China will look the other way because of trade deals. I said Russia will look the other way because they don't want to ruin that partnership they have for that Ukraine deal. And Iran will be left by themselves. And the Iranian government realized that their entire, friendship ally with Russia and China was transactional. And once the transaction stopped, so did everything else. Honestly, America has just shown the world that they are not here to mess about. And once again, the US is strong, stronger than ever before. And I can tell you one thing for a fact. Trump has every Iranian person's vote if they're an American citizen for life. Trump will always have the support of the Iranian people in America for life when it comes to voting, when it comes to anything, because of what he did by, making Iran get one step closer to a freedom, to essentially where the Shah of Iran, the king of Iran, can return. So honestly, I couldn't say much, I couldn't say, you know, honestly, the best thing I could say is thank you, Trump, and thank you, Netanyahu, for taking action against this cancerous regime. Honestly, the best thing that could have possibly happened. And if people don't like me saying that, I couldn't care less because you don't know what I know about my own government, about my own country. And I know how much essentially of a vicious type of people the Iranian government is. Absolutely bloodthirsty, cancerous, vicious type of people they are. Everybody in Iran will be dancing on their graves. Everybody in Iran will be dancing on that rat Ali Khamenei's grave, and everybody else who supports Ali Khamenei, all of them are going to be wiped out by the American government and essentially the Israeli government. And every Iranian will be celebrating on their graves the same way they celebrated when 40,000 Iranians died in 2 days because they protested against the government. And the Iranian government was celebrating they slaughtered 40,000 people. So it's coming. The return is coming when the Iranian people get to dance on their graves. Let's see. And it's all because of support of the US and Israel. Honestly, I couldn't be more thankful. So this war wasn't staged in any sort of a way. And the reason why it looked too easy is because Iran had nothing. The Islamic Republic of Iran had nothing under their belts. Just absolute delusion is all they had. Do you think that Iran oligarchy after the end of the war, this won't reproduce the same kind of scenario after death? No. What is going to be happening, what the people of Iran want is essentially Reza Pahlavi to come and be the leader of Iran, essentially. We want the Shah back. We want the monarchy back. We want the Shah back. We want a secular country where every religion and every person is respected on the same level. That's what we want. We don't want an Islamic Republic of Iran anymore. Of other countries might be fine with one particular religion leading their country, but the Iranian people are not compatible with, the Iranian people, as people might not say, essentially like me saying it, but the Iranian government, sorry, the Iranian people are not compatible with Islam, and they will never be compatible with Islam. The Iranian people love the idea of essentially freedom of choice, freedom of option. They like music, they like to drink alcohol, they like to eat pork if they wanted to, they like to wear whatever clothes they want to do, man or woman. So they're not compatible with government and religion tied in together. A secular country is always the better option, where every religion and every human being, man or woman, child or not, gets to live under the same rules. Everybody is respected for what they are. But when one religion and one government come together and force it upon the people, it's never going to work out. And it might work out in other countries, Saudi Arabia, it works out for them. The UAE, it works out for them. Bahrain, it works out for them. Kuwait, it works out for them. But it doesn't work out with the Iranian people, and it never will work out with the Iranian people. Secular country is always the best. Every religion, every person, every background, every skin color, everybody gets to live under the same roof. And everybody's respected at the same level. Nobody gets more respect for what they are or for what they believe or whatever. Everybody on the same level is what it needs to be. Christian, Islam, Jewish, Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever you may be, everybody should be on the same level. Do you think that, hello, Miles, God bless, so happy Trump is liberating your people? Facts. Let's go, Koma. Uh, hey, Miles, respect. Let's go, XLP Den. How you doing? Morning, Miles. And CMF, Shelly, good to see you all morning. How you doing? Happy birthday, Miles. Your birth. Thank you so much, XLP Den. Hi, Miles. Paul, good to see you all. How you doing? Would you move to Iran if the government falls? It's a great question. I'm not gonna. Here's the thing. My family definitely probably would. I can't stay in one place. I have to travel a lot. So I would definitely invest, is what I would say, 100%. And I would go there, if I could, 7 months of the year, 8 months of the year. Why not? 9 months of the year, I would go there. But I love to travel and I can't stay in one place. I hope the Iranian people, but I know for a fact that a lot of Iranians will be going back to essentially Iran once this regime completely falls apart. We have CEOs, CTOs, CFOs from major companies. I mean, eBay, the CEO essentially is Iranian. Uber, the CEO is Iranian. We have essentially entrepreneurs from high level, essentially American corporations, who are all Iranian, who have all essentially pledged that they will go back with the Shah of Iran. So we also have very high ranking people, even in Ripple, who are Iranian Americans. Everybody wants to go back to rebuild the country. Trump said today that he don't want. I'm ready to buy again. So do I need to buy now if it was to see if we shake down more due to the war? It's a possibility, but I'm also going to explain what's happening during this war regarding the crypto space as well. Um, Trump said today he don't want Reza as the leader for Iran. No, he didn't say that. He said that essentially Reza Pahlavi wants to do a democratic election in Iran. So if the people of Iran choose him, then he will become the leader of Iran. 81% of Iran already wants Reza Pahlavi. 85% of Iran already wants Reza Pahlavi. Reza Pahlavi, who's the crown prince of Iran, he doesn't want to come in as a dictator. He wants to come in as a democratic leader. So he said, I will do a vote. If the people choose me, I will come. He's not coming in as, you have no choice, but you only have to accept me, which I would, by all means, accept him over anyone to lead Iran. But he's coming in on a different level. He's coming in as a democratic leader. People vote, and then he comes into power. The reason why Trump said he doesn't want it is because he's not coming in like a dictator and saying, I'm the one that should be chosen. He's coming in as more like, if the people chose me, then I would lead, which 85% of Iranians already have chosen him. So that's why. I hope the Iranian people will get what they want and live in peace. Let's go, T. Amals, hope you had a great birthday and enjoyed the few days off, mate. Let's go, Addy. I definitely did. Re-evaluation on the way. Pretty much. The Iranian currency is definitely going to get revalued after this whole war scenario is over and everything else. And Reza Pahlavi comes in. How's it going, One House? It's going great. Good to see you. How you doing? If the taxes are not a problem, then stay where you are. If the taxes are a problem, then stay where you are. Fair enough. Now, let's go to the first news on tonight's live, which is regarding Iran, US, and crypto. Essentially, what's been happening inside the market space because of this war. Well, gold has been doing pretty much very damn well for itself, you could say. As always, gold does very well in war scenarios because it's an actual safe haven. Bitcoin, it held its ground, you could pretty much say, but there are reasons why essentially Bitcoin held its ground and certain crypto projects held their ground as well. So here is essentially data that was released, and it goes back to also what I said. I said there's two options for this war. I said one, the crypto market will go through shock and then the prices will rise. due to the Iranian government moving their money essentially on chain and trying to run away from the country. And I also said option number two, it would just be an instant rise because before the first missile lands, they're going to move their money onto crypto to escape the country because that's what the Iranian government does. They're all weasels. So you can essentially predict what their next move is going to be. Well, as you know, data has come out and it said that the Iranian crypto outflows surged 700% immediately following regional airstrikes. So before the first missiles landed in Iran, the Iranian government, essentially, you could say, already moved their money into crypto. 700% essentially surge, essentially, regarding crypto. In the minutes following recent airstrikes in the region, blockchain analytics firm, essentially Epileptic, reported a massive 700% spike in cryptocurrency outflows originating from Iranian-linked digital wallets. This rapid movement of capital highlights the growing role of digital assets as a flight to safety also mechanism or a means of a rapid wealth preservation during periods of sudden geopolitical instability. The data suggests that both retail and institutional actors within the country moved quickly to shift holdings into more liquid or offshore digital environments to mitigate the risk associated with potential domestic financial lockdowns or currency essential volatility. The sudden also surge has drawn immediate attention from international regulators and security analysts. Real time capital flight. The speed of outflows demonstrates the frictionless nature of modern digital economy, allowing significant wealth to exit a specific jurisdiction almost instantly response to essentially kinetic conflicts. Stablecoin preference. Analysis actually indicates that a majority of the outflows were directed towards USD pegged stablecoins as users sought to hedge against the potential devaluation of the Iranian rial aimed at escalating tensions. Sanction monitoring. Epileptic also noted that while much of the volume originated from private essentially wallets, the sudden activity has triggered an automated alerts across global exchanges and testifying the focus on how utility error assets are used in conflict zones. This event underscores the dual-edged nature of blockchain technology. In high stakes and geopolitical scenarios, while providing a lifeline for individuals to protect their savings during a crisis, the transparency of the ledger allows firms like Epileptic to provide immediate data to the global community. As regional tensions continue to impact global market sentiments, the Iranian spike serves as a significant case study in how digital assets plumbing essentially responds to physical essential warfare in 2026. Experts believe this will likely lead to calls for even more stringent essentially real-time monitoring of cross-border flows to ensure compliance with international security protocols. A 700% surge of outflows before the first missiles landed into Iran. 700% surge in outflows regarding cryptocurrencies. Everybody moved their money into essentially USDT, USDs, well, mostly USDT, and mostly essentially on the Tron network. Now, putting that to one side, but we will come back to essentially Iran, US, and Israel and crypto and gold news more on tonight's live show. But for now, we put it to one side and let's go to essentially towards European news and the crypto sector. European banks are in talks with crypto exchanges to secure liquidity for a new euro pegged stablecoin. Now, we know for a fact that Europe essentially wants to also, be a leader when it comes to stablecoins, and they don't just want the US dollars also leading again in a digital world. They want, the euros to be leading as well. And we could see, there's action being taken by European banks to make that possible. But is it going to be possible in reality? Probably not. The US dollars will also lead in the digital world no matter what. But Europe can try to ranking second or third against a US dollar stablecoin. So, a leading European bank is reportedly advancing negotiations with major cryptocurrency exchanges to ensure deep liquidity for the forthcoming regulated euro-pegged stablecoin. According to reports, the banks are seeking to establish a robust market making agreements that will allow for seamless high volume trading once essentially the asset officially launches. This proactive approach aims to prevent the liquidity traps that often plague new digital assets, ensuring that institutional users can move in and out of euro backed positions without causing significant price slippage within the euro essentially utility era framework. The collaboration represents a significant milestone in the integration of traditional banking with digital asset ecosystems. MiCA compliance, the new stablecoin, is being developed under the strict guidelines of the markets and crypto assets and regulations, providing an essentially level of legal certainty and consumer protection that essentially many existing offshore stablecoins lack. Institutional settlement rails. By partnering with established exchanges, the banks intend for a Europeg stablecoin to serve as a primary settlement asset for automated market makers and institutional DeFi protocols essentially across the continents. Market stability mechanism. The talks include the implementation of specialized liquidity buffers and real time reserves monitoring to maintain a tight peg, even during periods of extreme market volatility or high withdrawal demands. This move signals a strict shift by European financial institutions to reclaim ground in a stablecoin market currently dominated by the US dollar pegged stablecoin assets. Analysts believe that a highly liquid bank-backed euro stablecoin could become a cornerstone of the European digital economy, facilitating everything from cross-border essentially payments to the issuance of tokenized securities. As these negotiations conclude, the entry of tier 1 banks into stablecoin space is expected to provide the necessary plumbing for more diverse and resilient global digital currency landscape. Look, the best part about this news, the positive part about this news is one, European banks taking stablecoins serious enough now, where they're essentially having conversations with crypto exchanges. And essentially, if they do print European stablecoins with assets in European banks, which means it will pretty much never depeg, that these essentially European stablecoins could be on crypto exchanges like essentially Binance or Coinbase or Crypto.com or Kraken or OX Exchange and OX Exchange or essentially Mexi or so on. So that's positive. And do you know the best part about this is liquidity. If these European banks are, essentially being genuinely serious of entering the crypto space, creating some sort of a stable coin, using their essentially, the backing that they could provide from their own banking systems of essentially it will never depeg and being completely transparent, it could provide a lot of liquidity towards the crypto market space because then that Europeg stablecoin could be used by Europeans, retail or institutions to buy XRP, to buy Bitcoin, to buy Solana, to buy Ethereum, to buy XLM, to buy HBOT, and so on. And that's when we essentially benefit from that. Because if people were scared to use USDT or USDC or so on, they'll be less scared to use a European bank stablecoin, official bank stablecoin, because they know there's no depegging situations. This is good. Honestly, it provides that layer, that essentially of safety when it comes to stablecoins. Because we've had stablecoins depeg in the past because they're all by blockchain companies. But a bank stablecoin from the European side, it provides a safety net, it provides a layer of a safety net. So it could get more people into crypto because they will trust it. Let's say if someone's banking with essentially Santander Bank for all their lifetime, and Santander Bank suddenly comes out and tells their entire client base, we're going to launch a stablecoin. Then people will take it more seriously being a Santander Bank member to use that stablecoin in the crypto market space because they trust the bank because they've been with it for all their lifetime, which means they're more likely to trust the crypto space moving forward. It will provide liquidity for us in the long time. So in the long term, it's extremely positive. As I said, that European stablecoin could be used to buy Bitcoin, XRP, XLM, XDC, and that's when the liquidity enters into crypto projects we're holding. So that's extremely positive. Now, moving on from that, but keeping on the topic essentially of stablecoins, cryptocurrencies, and now going back to sanctions, US, Iran, and so on. International financial watchdogs warns of rising stablecoin use in sanction evasion. Countries that are sanctioned right now are immensely using stablecoins, particularly USDT on the Tron network, rather than any other blockchain out there. So, a prominent international financial watchdog has issued a stern warning regarding increasing role of stablecoins in illicit financial activities, especially highlighting their use in sanctions and invasions and money laundering. In a report released today, the organization noted that the utility era of digital finance has essentially provided sophisticated actors with the new tools to bypass traditional banking oversight. The watchdogs emphasize that the rapid borderless nature of stablecoins and transactions, often involving decentralized protocols, poses a growing challenge for essentially global law enforcement and agencies tasked with maintaining the integrity of the international financial system. The report calls for a more aggressive and coordinated global response to address these emerging vulnerabilities in the digital asset plumbing. This is good in a way and also bad in a way, and I'll explain both sides, but let me just go more into it with you. Enhanced monitoring. The watchdog is urging jurisdictions to implement stricter real time monitoring of essentially large scale stablecoin movements, particularly those originated from or directed towards high risk regions. Unified regulatory standards. There is a renowned push for a universal adoption of the Genius Act frameworks to ensure that stablecoin issuers are held at the same anti money laundering essential standards as traditional commercial banks. Just to essentially mention that one more time, a universal adoption. You see, the Genius Act in the United States is now being seen by the rest of the world also, where they're saying, okay, if America is going to do a Genius Act, we need to have something similar for stablecoins in terms of the law, or just adopt America's Genius Act on a similar level, where essentially all these allies around the world, G7, G20 countries, so on, will be under the same essentially foothold of the same Genius Act, where stablecoins are not restricted, but essentially transparent on who's using them. Is it going to be sanctioned countries? Is it essentially going to be political leaders that are essentially, dictators? Is it going to be used for terror? And if it is, we must find a way to stop these stablecoins to be used in that sort of way. And that's where the good side comes. The bad side is it might be a lot of monitoring going around. But the good part is the monitoring, as they're explaining it, is to essentially clamp down on stablecoins being used by dictators and terror groups essentially around the world, which I approve of. They should definitely find a way to stop dictators and also essentially terror groups from using stablecoins to buy, weaponry or so on to antagonize their own people or anybody else around the world. They should not be doing that. And if there is a way to stop these essentially dictators or terror groups from doing that, then, these countries should definitely look into it. Protocol accountability. The warning especially targets privacy enhanced stablecoin features, suggesting that developers and liquidity providers may face essentially increased liability if their platforms are found by essentially to be systematic or essentially coordinates for sanctioned funds. In other words, if there is a DeFi platform out there or a crypto exchange who is looking the other way while money is being funneling through their exchange by dictators, or essentially, for example, in this case, the Islamic Republic of Iran, then definitely that exchange should be looked into on why they let that happen. If they let it happen by accident, fair enough. If they didn't let it happen by accident and they were paid off to let essentially the Republic of Iran to move money into their exchange, then they should be fined and prosecuted. Also, on that side, Circle, who is another big leader essentially when it comes to stablecoins, Circle shares boosted by essentially macro risks and oil volatilities aimed the fading rate cut hopes. Shares of Circle, essentially the issuer of USDC stablecoin, received a significant boost following a positive note, essentially from analysts, who cited essentially conflicts of macroeconomic factors driving demand for company services. As Middle East tensions escalate and oil prices are rising slightly, investors are increasingly viewing Circle as a beneficiary of a flight to safety within essentially the digital asset market space. Furthermore, with hopes of immediate Federal Reserve rate cuts fading, the high interest rates on Circle's cash and treasury reserves are expected to continue generating substantial revenue, bolstering the firm's valuation in a volatile 2026 market space. The analyst also suggested that the current geopolitical and economic climate is creating a perfect storm for regulated stablecoin providers, and it definitely is. And moments like this are definitely creating a perfect storm for regulated stablecoins. In other words, RLUSD and USDC, because technically they are the only two regulated stablecoins compared to any other stablecoin out there, you could say. They're more transparent, they have the backings, and essentially they have the contracts in place, the licenses in place, and everything else that comes with it. So in times like this, US dollars also becomes a safe haven as well. In times of war, gold and US dollars become safe havens. and people do tend to run towards them. Even the Islamic Republic of Iran, the government of Iran, who is being, essentially obliterated by the American government right now, they are also running towards the US dollars. 700% in terms of US dollars, stablecoin US dollars is what happened. A rise in 700%. Safe haven demand. The surge in the Middle East tensions has prompted a shift towards essentially USDC and other regulated stablecoins, in other words, RRUSD, as a digital safe haven, with institutional users preferring the transparency of a US regulated asset more appealed to offshore alternatives, in other words, USDT. Energy market hedging. Rising oil prices have led to increased demand for stablecoins as a settlement tool for energy related trade, as firms seek to avoid the currency fluctuations associated with traditional fiat rails during a crisis. Interest revenue growth. The higher for the longer interest rate environment significantly improves Circle's bottom line as the yield on the underlying asset backing USDC remains elevated, attracting further confidence from essentially equity investors. Times like this is actually showing that crypto is very, very useful. In times like war, when it's a massive escalation right now, it started with essentially US, Israel, and Iran, and now it's essentially, it's with Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, essentially Cyprus. I mean, the list, Bahrain, the list is just getting bigger and bigger. The UAE, the list is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And times like this, when there's so much happening in the Middle East right now, it's showing that crypto is actually a viable option, even in times like this. Now, moving on from that to Paul Atkins, but we will come back to the war scenario because there's still so much to talk about that related to the market space. But moving on from that and essentially going to what I'm about to say now, which is regarding Paul Atkins and Donald Trump. So, Paul Atkins defines Donald Trump's crypto legacy through a streak leadership. In a recent opinion piece, former SEC commissioner, essentially, Paul Atkins reflects on the lasting impact of Donald Trump's administration on digital asset industries. His legacy in two words. Streak, essentially leadership. Atkins argues that the shift in federal policy starting in 2025 marked the definitive end of the regulation by enforcement era, replacing it with a framework designed to ensure American dominance in the global digital economy. This is coming from the SEC chairman right now, saying that Donald Trump essentially ended the enforcement era back in 2025, and going forward, and even the chair, essentially even in the eyes of the SEC chairman, he's saying essentially to everybody that he's seeing America become the capital of cryptocurrencies for the utility era. This transition provided the foundational stability necessary for the current utility era, allowing blockchain technology to be integrated into the nation's core financial plumbing without the consistent threat of shifting legal goalposts. The legacy described by Atkins centers on a fundamental move towards institutionalizing digital assets within a pro-growth environment. Appointment of a pro-essentially innovation and regulators. The administration's decision to appoint industry-friendly leaderships across the SEC and CFTC is credited with the ending of the war on crypto and fostering a collaborative relationship between Silicon Valley and Washington. The Genius Act Foundation. Atkins highlighted the administration's role in championing the legislative principles that became the Genius Act, which provide the legal certainty required for trillions in institutional capital to enter the market space. National security integration. By forming essentially Bitcoin and stablecoins as vital tools for American economies and sovereignties, the administration shifted the narrative from skepticism to seeing digital assets as the straight reserves assets for the 21st century. As the industry looks towards the late 2020s, Atkins suggests that the current flourishing of tokenized real world assets and regulated cross border payment rails is a direct result of essentially these early policy pivots. The Trump legacy, Paul Atkins is calling it, in his view, is not just about price appreciation, but about the structural legitimization of the asset class within the broader global financial system, which I agree with 1 billion%. I've said for the longest time, forget about price action. We need a strong foundation, because if we don't have a strong foundation built on regulations inside the crypto space, we're always going to go up on good news, bad on down news, up on good news, bad on down news, and so on. But if we have a strong legal foundation in terms of we have regulations, and corporations, don't feel like they'll get sued because going into gray areas, they will get more involved inside the crypto sector, going from banks to major behemoth institutions, or to essentially, small or medium-sized businesses, or even in the entire retail section, will feel more comfortable going into a market space that has a legal foundation. That's the most important part. And that is essentially what Paul Atkins is talking about. Price action will come, but first we need a legal foundation. And he said that's exactly what Trump is creating. And he said people are so focused on price action that they're not forgetting the most important factor: a foundation, a strong legal foundation. By prioritizing essentially clear rules and domestic innovation, the administration ensured the infrastructure for the next generation of finance will be built and governed according to American standards, rather than being seen to offshore jurisdictions. That's exactly what Trump has achieved since day one. A lot of people will, essentially criticize and say Trump achieved nothing for the crypto space. The prices of crypto are still down. They're even down before they essentially, went up or so on. And they're not realizing that because of Trump, we don't have Gary Gensler in charge of the SEC. Because of Trump, all lawsuits were dropped essentially inside the crypto space. Because of Trump, Ripple's not being sued by the SEC. Because of Trump, the CFTC is pro crypto. Because of Trump, the OCC is pro crypto. Because of Trump, we even have the discussions of a crypto reserve. Because of Trump, American states are discussing the idea of a crypto essential reserve. Because of Trump, Hong Kong is thinking about doing essentially, their own crypto regulations. Because of Trump, the UAE took more positions inside the crypto space. Because of Trump, the MICA, essentially cryptos, the crypto regulations were created for the European Union. Because of Trump, the UK even decided to enter the crypto space, even if it is at a snail's pace. Because of Trump, Brazil decided to enter the crypto space even more. Because of Trump, Canada decided to enter the crypto space even more. Because of Trump, Australia decided to enter the crypto space even more. Because of Trump, Japan decided to create more rules and regulations for stablecoins, essentially. The list goes on of because of Trump, because of Trump, because of Trump for the crypto space. So if you've not seen price action, or if you've criticized Trump essentially because of what happened inside the crypto space, look at what he's building for the crypto space, and don't look at the prices of your assets, because what he's building for the crypto space is what we've always wanted: utility. And what comes with utility? Decoupling. That's what we want inside the crypto space: a strong foundation. Not good news, we go up; bad news, oh, we come back down; good news, oh, we go up; bad news, we come back down. We don't want that anymore inside the crypto space. We could take the dramatics of a price action. At least we get a strong foundation. At least we get a legal foothold. At least we get institutions entering the crypto space because there are no more gray areas. At least we get banks entering the crypto space with their heavy wallets because there's no more gray areas. At least we have essentially the rest of the world entering the crypto space because of Trump mentioning the capital of cryptocurrencies. At least we get the UAE saying they want to become the capital of cryptocurrencies because of Trump. At least we get Singapore mentioning the same thing. At least we get Hong Kong mentioning the same thing. At least we get Japan mentioning the same thing. At least we get the EU more excited to enter the stablecoin market space. At least we got the UK. You get the picture. Honestly, the man has achieved so much for the crypto space, but it can't be seen because too many people are focused on price action and not on essentially what he's building for the crypto space, which is a strong foothold, a strong foundation. Now, on the topic of Japan, Bank of Japan essentially expands blockchain settlements and sandbox as 2026 CBDC decisions near. The Bank of Japan has announced a significant expansion of its blockchain settlement sandbox, marking a critical step towards the potential issuance of a digital yen. As the 2026 deadline for the final decision on the central bank digital currency CBDCs approaches, the Bank of Japan is inviting a broader range, essentially, of commercial banks and fintech innovators to test high volume transaction processing on a distributed ledger. This move is designed to ensure that Japan's financial plumbing is capable of supporting the utility era and requirements of an essentially near settlement, while essentially maintaining the rigorous security standards expected of global reserve currency. This is all because of Trump. It's because of Trump we have every country now and every institution, every bank mentioning the words utility era. Do you think we would have ever heard the words utility era under a Biden administration? Hell no. Do you think we would have ever heard the utility era be mentioned under Kamala Harris? Hell no. The man, Trump has achieved quite a lot, but people tend to overlook what he's doing, and people just like to look at the surface. Stop looking at the surface and look at what he's achieving in the background. The expansion essentially focuses on several key technical and economic pillars intended to modernize the Japanese financial landscape. Interoperability testing. The Bank of Japan is prioritizing the ability of its experimental ledger to communicate with private stablecoins and international payment rails, such as the XRP ledger, to facilitate frictionless cross-border trades. Japan is getting closer and closer to a essentially release of a digital yen, of essentially a CBDC, Japanese CBDC. They created a digital sandbox where companies can come and test out their products and see how it will essentially will work out for them in a real life scale before it gets released to the public. And obviously, XRP Ledger is there leading the way, you can pretty much say. Offline functionality is also essentially, very prime take. A primary goal of a new sandbox phase is to refine offline payments capabilities, ensuring that the digital currency remains accessible and resilient during natural disasters or power outages. Well, we know for a fact that XRP Ledger can achieve that. Private sector collaborations. By including a diverse group of regional lenders, the central bank aims to minimize the risk of essentially ensuring that the introduction of a CBDC complements rather than replaces the existing essentially commercial banking sector. As the global race for digital currency supremacy intensifies, Japan's methodological essentially approach signals a commitment to maintaining its status as a leading financial hub. Analysts suggest that the Bank of Japan's focus on a hybrid model where the central bank provides the core infrastructure and private firms manage the user-facing services could serve as a blueprint for other G7 nations with essentially their final decisions looming later this year. The result of this expanded sandbox will likely determine whether digital yen becomes a foundational reality for the Japanese economy by the end of the decade. It's all because of Trump that even Japan is mentioning the word utility era. But the Japanese are getting closer and closer to a CBDC. Well, we know for a fact, obviously, who's going to be essentially going to be a part of that CBDC. Now, moving on from that, and let's just, let me share you something quite interesting, you could pretty much say, a bit unique. So putting that to one side, Japan, US, Iran, Israel, putting everything to one side just for now. And I just want to share you this news it's an interesting perspective, you could say, and it has some truth to it, you could also say. So, AI agents, and if you don't know what an AI agent is, stage one of AI is like ChatGPT, the easiest way to put it. ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, whatever you may use, which is you asking a question saying, can you help me with this ChatGPT? Can you write me an email, ChatGPT? But there's more to AI than can you write me this? Can you do this? And so on. Where essentially AI agents come in, where your AI module essentially hires employees, the best way to put it. And they're called essentially AI agents. And these employees go ahead and do certain tasks for you. It could be to create a website, it could be to create an app for you, it could be to essentially do your entire marketing for your company. And the AI agents are active 24/7. It's like having an employee for your company that's active 24/7, doesn't need a day of rest, doesn't need to take any breaks, and so on. And that's basically what an AI agent is. So, AI agents predicted to become the primary users of blockchain infrastructure, not now, but in general in the future. So, the co founder of Near Protocol has stated that autonomous AI agents are on track to become the primary users of blockchain networks. Obviously, AI agents can't use physical cash. So digital money, essentially blockchain, in other words, is the only thing that they can use, crypto. So speaking on the evolution of the utility era, co-founder of Near Protocol essentially argued that as AI models move beyond simple chat interferences towards executing complex real-world tasks, they will require a decentralized machine readable financial system to operate in. Unlike human users, AI agents need plumbing that supports macro transactions, 24/7 availability, and permissionless access to move value and data without the friction of traditional banking or manual authorization. The shift towards an AI driven blockchain economy is expected to fundamentally change how networks are designed and utilized. Machine to machine payments. AI agents will use blockchain to pay each other for computing power, data access, and API services, creating a self sustaining economy that functions independently without you having some sort of an input. So, in other words, let's say somewhere down the line, because that's where we're heading right now, somewhere down the line, you are going to be essentially, having your own company. Let's say if you have a business idea or you already run a company, it's going to get to a point where you're just going to be hiring AI agents. In other words, it's just going to be AI agents. You're going to have one AI module, and that AI module is going to go around and hire AI agents, and it's just going to do everything for you. It's going to run your entire company, or in some cases, your entire life. So your AI agent will pay your bills on time. It would make sure essentially all your tasks are taken care of. If you have a business, it will make sure your marketing is taken care of. If you need to create content, it will create content for you essentially. There's so much more to it. If you want your shopping done, it could put orders through. It just knows essentially. It comes to a stage where it's completely taken over your life, and it knows everything about you and your family, and it does everything for you in terms of a work life or personal life. And that's crypto is going to be the only currency obviously used for these AI modules, for these AI agents. And that humans don't really need to be there for essentially, to approve anything, because you've given pre-approval to your AI module of what it can do and what it can't do. And also you can make your AI mod, essentially your AI agent, get a job. Not even joking about this one. A lot of people essentially started using CloudBot. If you have heard about it, if you haven't heard about it, CloudBot essentially is an AI module that can live in its own computer. You could say pretty much. Some people are getting essentially mini Macs to essentially set it up. Some people are using Windows, and some people are using Android phones. And how they essentially communicate with this AI module is using essentially Telegram or WhatsApp, and they might essentially have conversations with their AI. It's not like ChatGPT where you ask it a question and it gives you a response. It's more like your AI is talking to you without you even asking a question. And you could say, have you found yourself a job? And the AI module will say, I'm trying to create websites for this company. I'm trying to do marketing for this company. And it starts making its own essentially living, its own wage. And you can pretty much sit at home while your AI models, essentially while your AI agents are making money for you. It's a very interesting concept. And Near Protocol's essentially co-founder is, talking about this future where humans don't have to really lift a finger. You could even say that, AI will completely take over. It could also make you money while you're sipping a pina colada sitting at the beach. Verification and trust. Blockchain provides a record of AI's actions, offering essentially a necessary layer of proof and accountability in a world where deepfakes and autonomous decision making are becoming more prevalent. So, in other words, if people had fears of what about if essentially their AI goes rogue, for example, because there has been times where AI has went rogue. So, what happens if the AI goes rogue, or what happens essentially, someone creates a deep fake of you, creating a video of you doing something that isn't you? Well, the beauty of blockchain is everything is timestamped, you could pretty much say. So, it's a proof of what actually happened compared to what's been seen online. Programmable incentives. Also, smart contracts will allow developers to set specific rules and goals for AI agents, ensuring they remain economically aligned with their human creators while navigating complex global markets. This transition essentially marks a departure from the user centric design of early crypto era, moving towards an infrastructure optimized for high frequency, automated interactions. Industry experts believe that the integration of AI and ledger technology will lead to a massive increase in transaction volumes, designing scalable solutions that can handle the demands of millions of automated, essentially agents, autonomous agents. As this synergy essentially matures, the primary value of blockchain may shift from being a tool for human speculation to becoming the essential operating system for a global AI ecosystem. In other words, AI and crypto are hand in hand together. So, one, we have crypto money entering the crypto space, and we have essentially retail money. The first money that we ever saw inside the crypto space, it was retail and hedge funds. Some people argue it was only retail. It really wasn't. It was retail and hedge funds. The hedge funds did a lot of manipulating, pretty much. It was retail hedge funds, not all hedge funds. And then it went to ETFs, where it was high profile investors entering from BlackRock and so on. And now there's another shift happening where banks are getting involved, and that's only because they're sorting out a few regulations so that they can get involved as well. And then it's going to move and shift away from banks to, it already is up to a certain extent, to AI modules. There's going to be so much transactions happening on the crypto space that is certain crypto projects are just going to go through the roof in terms of price points. Absolutely through the roof in terms of price point. We're going to have liquidity entering from every angle into the crypto space, from humans all the way up to AI. Now, Bitcoin essentially is what we're going to talk about next. Bitcoin attempting to make a stand as global essentially stock markets melt down on Iran war. So going back to essentially Israel, US, Iran, and Bitcoin. Bitcoin so far, you could pretty much say, held some sort of a ground in this war. It went a little bit down due to shock, as I said it would, and then it came a little bit back up, and then it came a little bit down, and now it's just holding up to a certain price point, you could say. So, Bitcoin is attempting to establish a price floor as global equity markets experience a essentially severe meltdown triggered by escalating military conflicts involving Iran. While traditional stock indices have plummeted in response to the heightened geopolitical instability and the resulting surge in energy prices, Bitcoin has shown essentially a degree of resilience, you could say, up to a certain extent, with traders debating its role as a digital gold, essentially as a digital gold safe haven. This decoupling attempt comes at essentially a critical juncture for the utility era. As investors weigh in the risk of regional warfare against borderless and censorship-resistant nature of decentralized assets. The market's reaction highlights the contrast performance between traditional financial systems and emerging digital economies. Flight from equity. Major global indices are seeing deep red across the board as essentially the threat are essentially of an expanded conflict in the Middle East, and it drives a mass exit from risk-on assets and corporate stocks. Energy market is essentially contagious. Surging oil prices have also stoked fears of renowned inflation and fear dampening hopes for near-term essentially interest rate cuts and essentially putting immense pressure on legacy financial plumbing. Bitcoin's defense test. Analysts are closely monitoring whether Bitcoin can maintain its support levels as its ability to act as a hedge during essentially a kinetic war that could redefine its institutional standing for the next decade. Analysts right now are watching Bitcoin to see how it's reacting in this massive geopolitical tension that's happening in the Middle East. Is Bitcoin going to be holding its essentially ground in some sort of a way? Is it able to even hold essentially ground in any sort of a way? So, despite the localized strength in Bitcoin, the broader crypto market remains volatile, with many altcoins still following the downward trend of the Nasdaq. Market observers note that while the digital gold narrative is being put to its most significant test yet, the overall essentially liquidity environment remains constrained by the macro risk essential of this conflict. As the situation in the Middle East continues to develop, the focus remains on whether Bitcoin can truly essentially make a stand and provide a stable alternative for global capital fleeing the chaos of traditional markets. While there was a 700% outflow into stablecoins before the first missiles landed in Iran, while the first missiles were in the sky and before they landed into Iran, there was a 700% out straight into stablecoins. But it seemed like even the Iranian government didn't want to essentially hold Bitcoin and they went straight towards stablecoins, which is saying a lot because the Islamic Republic of Iran are absolute weasels. So it seems that Bitcoin has held its ground, but it did also go down with the first impact. It's not shooting up like essentially gold is, and gold isn't massively, but it's doing better than Bitcoin is, and so is the US dollars. Now, on the topic of Bitcoin, let's talk about Bitcoin mining because over the past weeks, we've had massive Bitcoin mining corporations either move away essentially from Bitcoin in terms of Bitcoin mining or essentially scale down their operations and go completely towards data centers. Before we talk about that, let's go start the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then we go straight into the next news on tonight's live. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, go for inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see what's happening inside the comment section. By the way, thank you so much to everybody who has also liked and retweeted this live show on X. If you're watching this on X, CMF members, if you haven't, take 5 seconds to like and retweet this live show. If you watch us on YouTube, just drop a like as well. If you want, put a comment outside the live also. Now, let's see where we're at inside the comment section before we move on to the next news. We were here. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Mike, good to see you. How you doing? Shibi and your baby. Let's go, Thompson. They will ban or sanction wallets from Iran. Probably. Iraqi dinar is not too far away from revaluation as well. Good evening, Miles. Happy birthday again. I hope you had a fun. Let's go, Lena. Thank you so much. Good to see you as well. Kraken, number one, baby. Let's go. Thompson, let's go. How you doing? Far better than Coinbase. Do you think we are going to get a 4 to 5% yield on stablecoins in Europe? It's a possibility. Europe isn't, deciding on the whole. The banks aren't being too greedy, you could say, in Europe. That's a great thing that crypto is useful during essentially chaotic situations. It definitely is, yeah. Miles, let's go, Davey. How you doing? How you been? Is it virtually impossible to carry a massive amounts of precious metals within a short period of time? Yes, it's virtually impossible. Physically, yes, obviously. If you want to move massive amounts essentially of precious gold, let's say, you need lorries. Depends on how much massive amount you're talking about in physical form. If you want to move it in digital form, then obviously you can move tokenized gold if you want to do, which would be a lot more quicker. But yeah, it is virtually impossible. Crypto is somewhat a suitable. Also, I still prefer precious metals. Fair enough. I mean, gold is always going to be an amazing asset. Um, but I would look into the asset that's going to tokenize gold because that will be a bigger bet. What is your opinion about Cuba? I think Cuba is next to be liberated as well. Cuba is definitely next to be liberated on Trump's list. A lot of countries. This is the year of utility era for the crypto space, and also the year Trump starts taking out dictators one by one. He started with Venezuela, then he took out the Iranian dictator, and Cuba could be next. North Korea could be next. You never know who's going to be next on Trump's list. But this is definitely the year of dictators being completely wiped out from the surface of the earth. There will be a continuous utility bull run increasing higher and higher when it's all set and ready. I agree 100%, Davey. Yes. Because of Trump, Gary Gensler apologized to Brad. Because of Trump, we're holding. Let's go. Governments will love AI agents. They will know us 100%. No privacy. Fair enough. We're going to become so redundant. Also, good point. Yep. Sign me up for sure. Pina colada while my AI goes to work for me. I'm definitely interested. Let's go, Ray. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? AI will use crypto as payments. Yes, it would. To the moon, baby. Let's go, Thompson. Hi, Miles and CMF. Sorry, I'm late. I watched the restream. No problem. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? Where you at new? I don't know what that is. That means at some point AI will just get rid of us if it gets fed up with a button. That's why I'm nice when I'm using ChatGPT. Sometimes they call it bestie or buddy, just in case. Fair enough. Um, yeah, I mean, fair enough. AI agents will accept XRP payments. Yes. I will buy me an AI wife who says no. Hi, when Bullrun, Johnny, good to see you. I like Johnny, you're consistent with the same question every episode. And who winning the war? Who's winning the war? That's an obvious answer. The US. Bitcoin okay, is Near Protocol did have a good pump. Was it because of the CEO announcement about AI? I didn't see if it did have a pump, but if it did have a pump, could be. I'll be honest, it could be. Now, public Bitcoin miners are pivoting towards AI. So there's a lot of that happening right now. In the past weeks, as I said, too many Bitcoin mining corporations are turning towards data AI centers because that provides better income for them than mining and maintaining Bitcoin. But there are different perspectives on this. So here's the first one. A significant shift is occurring within the Bitcoin mining industry as major public firms move away from their traditional hold strategies in favor of aggressive expansions into artificial intelligence. According to reports, Today, several of the largest mining operations are essentially repurposing their high performance computing power to meet the skyrocketing demand for AI model training. This trick essentially pivot suggests that these firms may no longer act as a long-term vaults for Bitcoin supply, as they increasingly are liquidating their holdings to fund massive capital expenditures required for AI infrastructure race. We even had one Bitcoin mining company, who's a public company, change their name from Bitmain something to essentially some AI data center. The transition from a pure play mining to AI services represents a fundamental change in digital asset plumbing and market dynamics. Liquidation pressures. As miners essentially prioritize hardware upgrades and data centers, essentially retrofitting for AI, analysts expect a consistent stream of Bitcoin selling pressure, potentially dampening price appreciation in the near term. So if you're wondering to yourself, maybe somewhere down the road, why is Bitcoin still dropping? We could be in a utility era even. Why is Bitcoin still dropping? Because Bitcoin mining corporations are moving away from Bitcoin and they're selling their assets and going into AI data centers. Diversified revenue streams. By integrating AI workloads, public miners are seeking more stable, predictable cash flows that are less dependent on the 4-year essential halving cycles and Bitcoin's price volatility. Infrastructure re-rating. Market observers note that this shift is redefining how investors value mining companies, moving them from proxy Bitcoin plays to critical infrastructure providers in the broader utility era of computing. As we're entering the utility era for the crypto space, Bitcoin mining corporations are moving away from Bitcoin. Isn't that an interesting one? We're moving towards utility era for crypto. Bitcoin mining corporations are moving away from Bitcoin and going to AI data centers. Is it because they say new? Because is it because they see no future in a utility era for Bitcoin? Is that why they're moving, or is it because of what they say? There's not enough money in Bitcoin mining anymore. They'd rather make more money doing AI data centers. This evolution highlights a growing essential convergence between decentralized networks and centralized intelligence. While the loss of a mega holders in the Bitcoin mining sector may create initial market headwinds, prominents argue that more diversified and financial stable mining industries is healthier for the industry's long-term security. As these firms continue to go all in on AI, the Bitcoin market is entering a new phase where supply dynamics are driven less by ideological holding and more by the operational demands of the global technology race. In other words, does Bitcoin have utility? Because the Bitcoin mining corporations seem to think it doesn't, hence why they're moving away. But in their own words, they're also moving away because there's not enough money to be made on Bitcoin, but more money to be made on the AI data centers. And they already made enough money from Bitcoin mining. Now, moving away from that completely and going into this news, CFTC. CFTC chief has said, essentially, to clear the path for US futures contracts in the coming weeks. The CFTC chairman, Sling, has announced plans to establish a formal regulatory framework for cryptocurrency contracts, futures contracts, within the United States, a move expected to be finalized in the coming weeks. This landmark decision aims to bring one of the most popular and high volume digital asset instruments previously largely restricted to offshore exchanges under the direct oversight of American regulators. By providing a clear, essentially legal pathway, the CFTC seeks to enhance market transparency and investor protection while ensuring that the US remains a competitive hub for the utility era of sophisticated financial derivatives, and the shift towards regulated futures is expected to fundamentally alter domestic digital asset landscape. Institutional onboarding. The presence of a regulated US framework will allow large scale hedge funds and institutional desks to access futures markets within the legal certainty they require, potentially injecting billions in new liquidity into the crypto market space. Enhanced market oversights. Under the new rules, platforms offering these products will be subject to strict reporting requirements and automated risk management standards aimed at reducing systematic essentially leverage risks and closing the offshore gap by providing a compliant domestic alternative. The CFTC hopes to migrate essentially trading volume back to US essentially shores, strengthening the nation's financial plumbing and reducing the influence of unregulated foreign entities. The US is definitely trying to essentially, have some sort of a foothold control on the entire crypto market space. This policy pivot reflects a broader transition towards a more integrated and mature digital economy where complex instruments are no longer sidelined. Industry experts believe that the introduction of a regulated futures will serve as a critical catalyst for the next phase of the market evolution and essentially offering traders more flexible tools for hedging and price discovery. As the CFTC moves to finalize these guidelines, the decision essentially is being hailed as a major victory for American financial innovation and signaling that the US is ready to lead the global standard for 21st century asset trading. All impressive. Honestly, the US is looking at every angle when it comes to across the crypto space, spot, futures, tokenizations, and stablecoins. Now, moving on from that to tokenization, Ondo Finance. Ondo Finance wins the Abu Dhabi approval for tokenized stock platforms, essentially on Binance. Ondo Finance has achieved a major regulatory milestone by securing approval from Abu Dhabi authorities to launch its tokenized stock platform in collaboration with Binance. This move allows the firm to offer blockchain based versions of traditional equities within highly regulated environments, bridging the gap between legacy capital markets and also the digital asset ecosystem. By establishing essentially a foothold in the UAE, Ondo Finance is positioning itself at the forefront of the utility era where real world assets are integrated directly into global financial plumbing. The approval facilitates a new level of accessibility and transparency for global investors seeking exposure to traditional markets. Abu Dhabi's clear legal framework for digital assets provides Ondo with the compliant sandbox to scale its tokenization technology without the jurisdictional hurdles found in other regions. And Binance's ecosystem integration, by launching on Binance, the platform gains immediate access to a massive global liquidity pool, allowing for seamless trading of tokenized shares around the clock. And this initiative essentially underscores the growing trend of essentially on chain traditional securities, providing investors with a faster settlement times and reduced intermediary costs compared to the standard brokerage models. The collaboration between Ondo Finance and Binance is seen as a significant step towards the maturation of tokenization sectors. As more traditional financial products move onto the blockchain, the demand for regulated, transparent issuers is expected to surge, and analysts believe that this Abu Dhabi approval will serve as a blueprint for other jurisdictions looking to modernize their financial systems by providing the future of stock trading, and it lies in the secure, efficient infrastructure of distributed technology, of ledger technology. This is incredible news, honestly, for Ondo Finance. Once again, they're blowing it out of park. When it comes to tokenization, they are definitely one of the leaders, no doubt about it. Now, moving on from Ondo Finance in Abu Dhabi to Visa and Bridge. Visa and Bridge plan stablecoin linked card expansion to over 100 countries. Visa and Bridge are about to bring stablecoin, essentially bank cards, to 100 countries. Visa has announced a massive global expansion of its stablecoin integrated payment network through a strategic partnership with Bridge, aiming to essentially roll out crypto linked debit cards to over 100 countries. This initiative is designed to bridge the gap between traditional fiat currencies and digital assets, allowing consumers to spend their stablecoin balances at millions of merchants and locations worldwide. By leveraging Bridge's issuance and infrastructure, Visa established a global network that essentially the duo aims to standardize the utility era of digital payments, making the move essentially between on-chain value and real-world purchases nearly essentially instant. The partnership focuses on modernizing essentially the financial plumbing for international essentially commerce and personal finance. Global interoperability. The expansion targets emerging markets and essentially developed economies, unlike providing consistent payment experience, essentially that bypasses the friction and high fees of traditional cross-border currency conversions. Direct stablecoin settlements. Under this model, transactions can be settled directly in stablecoins like USDC, reducing the need for intermediate conversions into fiat and allowing more efficient liquidity management for both users and merchants. The simplest way to put it, if you go on vacation to anywhere around the world, and you want to use your Visa or MasterCard, for example, and it could be any bank, it could be Barclays, HSBC, Lloyds, Santander, NatWest, JP Morgan, Chase Bank, whatever bank it may be, Visa or MasterCard. If you use your bank card in a foreign country, you will be charged a certain, essentially, a small fee for making that transaction, because you might be spending your dollars in an Asian country, you might be spending your euros essentially in the US, or your pounds in the US. And either way, you'll be paying a small fee on every transaction you make, because your bank is going to make the conversion of your pounds to dollars, or your dollars to pounds, or your euros to yen, or whatever it may be. And the bank makes a small essentially fee to your account, which they get paid, and essentially you take the L. With a stablecoin bank account, there's pretty much, the fee is non-existent. There will be a fee, but you won't even feel it. It's pretty much non-existent, which means you can spend your Visa stablecoin bank card at 100 countries, pretty much, you could say, fee free. Obviously, there'll be the cost of the USDC or RUSD, whatever, but you won't even feel it. It'll be less than a cent. I'll give you an example. Lloyd's Bank charges you, well, here's the thing. A credit card company will charge you, a British credit card company will charge you roughly about £1 78 pence per transaction in the US. But if someone used a stablecoin like RUSD, I would have never been charged that, or anybody else. The fee would have been essentially 1 cent, even less. So that's why this just works out a lot more better. I mean, blockchain has so much to offer right now. It's unreal. Enhanced security standards. The cards will now essentially integrate Visa's advanced fraud protection and bridges compliance first issuance protocols, ensuring that the transition to digital asset spending meets rigorous global regulatory requirements. This move essentially marks a significant step in the mainstream of blockchain based finance, as one of the world's largest payment processors fully embraces stablecoins as core medium of exchanges. Industry analysts essentially suggest that by enabling stablecoin spending on such a massive cycle, Visa is effectively turning digital assets into primary tool for everyday transactions rather than just speculative holdings. As the rollout begins, the success of this program will likely determine how quickly, essentially, the global economy shifts towards a unified digital first payment infrastructure that operates 24/7 across all borders. Amazing news, incredible news. I'll be very honest. They are only starting with USDC at the beginning, but they'll obviously go through RLUSD as well. They're going to be using only regulated stablecoins, and there's only two regulated stablecoins right now in the US, and it's USDC and RLUSD. USDT is unfortunately not regulated. Not unfortunately, I could care less about USDT, I'll be very honest. The only reason everybody uses USDT is because we got stuck with USDT since day one. If we had the option of RLUSD since day one, everybody would have used RLUSD since day one. Now, moving on from that to back to the conflict situation of essentially what's happening, because it's a bit more that you need to know. Before we talk about that, let's go inside the conversation first. This was happening then, and we're straight into the next news. So let's see where we're at inside the conversation. I say please and thank you to ChatGPT. Let's go, Lottie. Professor Jing says US will lose. Why he say this? US is that weak. No, the delusional. Anybody, and I mean genuinely, if anybody online, a professor, a CEO, a CTO, a military expert, whoever it may be, a prime minister, a president, whoever it may be, is genuinely coming out still and saying that the US is going to lose against Iran in this war. They took out the supreme leader of Iran in 6 hours. If there is still anybody coming out and saying the US is losing or is going to lose, that person is more delusional than the Islamic Republic of Iran or Ali Khamenei, who is dead right now and turned into dust. Honestly, Anybody comes up, it could be a professor, a war expert, a military specialist, a liberal, a CEO, a CTO, a CFO, a president, a prime minister, or a moronic politician. If anybody is coming out right now and saying the US is going to lose this war against Iran or has lost already, they are more delusional than the Islamic Republic of Iran. And that's hard to beat because the Islamic Republic of Iran is extremely delusional. They took out the supreme leader of Iran in 6 hours. The man that was chatting the most amount of was for 47 years. He got smoked in 6 hours. And there are people still coming out going, the US is going to lose. Sure, it is. Because already they've won. They're just continuing to completely remove them. They won within the 6 hours, within the first 6 hours. It's, by the way, it's a world record of how fast a country's leader was taken out. Do you know the funniest part? The person that was chosen to lead the country next. So when the supreme leader of Iran got taken out, there was someone else chosen to replace him because Ali Khamenei, the rat who is right now burning in hell, the supreme leader of Iran, he chose 3 people to lead the country after him if he dies, which he died within the first 6 hours. The next person in line to replace him also got smoked by the US within 3 to 4 hours. If anybody else is stupid enough to come behind that guy and say, I will lead Iran, he should also get deserved to be smoked by the US. But this war is not even a competition. It's just not even a competition. It's just a complete demolition, the best way to put it, of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They're completely getting essentially wrecked by the US Army. Absolutely wrecked. Because the facts are always going to, I mean, beforehand, if you actually thought the Iran could win, you're very delusional. But now that there's facts to back that up, and if there are people still coming out and the US is going to lose, you must be extremely delusional. The leader of that country got taken out in 6 hours. That is a Guinness World Record. And the next Guinness World Record was the second leader who got taken out in 3 to 4 hours. That's also a Guinness World Record. Is Ondo in your portfolio? I have begun to Dorcas average for a little while now into the projects. Ondo is a great project, yes. Where do you get your Visa crypto card from, Miles, when it comes out? Visa's website will probably have more information on that, but I'll definitely post this at Telegram, no problem. Why would anyone saying that the US will lose? If not true, are they being paid? Yes, yes. There is a lot of people that are being paid by the Iranian government. Too many people are being paid by the Islamic Republic of Iran. And there's also too many people being paid by the other moronic group called Mujahideen. They are 10 times worse than the Islamic Republic of Iran. Seeing how cancerous the Islamic Republic of Iran is, there's another group called Mujahideen. They are even 10 times worse than these morons. That's something else, but then these morons. So they're also a treacherous, cancerous, essentially, regime as well. The only viable option is the monarchy, it's Reza Pahlavi, it's Javid Shah, no doubt about it. Those two idiot groups are paying a tremendous amount of politicians to come out in their favor. I will bet both of my lungs, I will bet all of my organs that there are people inside of essentially parliamentary groups in the EU, in the UK, in the US, especially in Spain, and every other nation out there that are being funneled money by the Islamic Republic of Iran. I will bet all my organs. I'll bet my life on it. Because I know, as an Iranian, what essentially the Islamic Republic of Iran is, what they're capable of. And on the first day of that war, the first day of that war, the Islamic Republic of Iran fired a missile into a school playground. And then they came out on the news and said Israel and US did that. Israel and US damaged an Iranian school and killed students. That is complete BS. I know my own government and I know what they're capable of. They will target their own civilians. The Islamic Republic of Iran killed 40,000 protesters. They cut off the internet and within 2 days killed 40,000, essentially 40,000 protesters. 40,000 protesters they killed within 2 days by cutting off the internet. What makes you think they're not capable of killing more of their own people and blaming it on others? I'll give people might say, no, they never killed 40,000. Put that to one side. 1979. Here's a little history lesson for anybody out there. 1979, very small history lesson. When the Shah was being toppled by this treacherous, cancerous regime that lied to everyone and essentially brought a lot of people out. When this regime was about to come in, essentially, 1971, the collapse of the Shah, do you know what this regime did to push people over the edge on Iran? First, they lied to people in Iran. They said, why should Iranians be paying for electricity? It should be free. Food should be free. Gas should be free. Rent should be free. Everything should be free. And these morons that believed these, cancerous people, obviously paid the price of 47 years. But do you know what really also pushed people over the edge? And they thought to themselves, the Shah is a bad, evil person, and that this regime is the best option at that time. There was a cinema in Iran. This is why people don't understand who the Islamic Republic of Iran really is. There was a cinema in Iran. They boarded all the doors of the cinema with the people inside back then, and they put the cinema on fire. And nobody survived in that cinema. And do you know why the Islamic Republic of Iran did that back then? They said the Shah did it. That pushed people over the edge also. Because everybody believed their BS lies back then, 47 years ago. When they boarded up a cinema with chains and put it on fire with people inside and blamed it on the Shah to push people over the edge. So when I say, or when Iranians say, they know what their government, what the Islamic Republic of Iran is capable of. When we say we know they take out their own people and blame it on others, we know for a fact that they use human shields. We know for a fact they use children as human shields. What kind of a coward, honestly, what kind of a coward goes into a school and does a political meeting? What kind of a coward does that? Because that's what they're doing right now. What kind of a coward uses hospitals with patients inside as a political meeting ground? Just so when they do get hit, they say, oh, they hit a hospital. Oh, they hit a school. What kind of a coward does that in time of war? Nobody. I don't remember, in times of World War One, essentially, the number one most hated man on the planet, Hitler, using essentially hospitals for political grounds for essentially their meetings. I don't remember in World War II, essentially, Churchill using essentially, as political grounds so they don't get hit as a hospital or a school children's playground. This is the type of cowards and rats they are. The Islamic Republic of Iran are a cancer, and I'm so happy that essentially Trump and Israel have come together to finally remove this cancer from this planet. Honestly, when Iranians say they understand what their government is capable of, and while the people in the West, not everybody, but while essentially the liberals in the West are chanting from essentially the top of their lungs and in favor of the Iranian government, in favor of the Islamic Republic of Iran, there are liberals chanting from the top of their lungs in favor of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They don't know who they're siding with. They are siding with group of people who put a cinema on fire with their own people inside 47 years ago. They're siding with a group of people who use children as human shields. They're siding with people who use humans in patients in hospital as human shields. Liberals really don't understand who they're siding with. And there's a lot of them being paid off by the Islamic Republic of Iran. So honestly, when Iranians say, you don't know what the Islamic Republic of Iran is capable of, you really don't know what they're capable of. Only we know what they're capable of. As an Iranian, we know what they're capable of because we've seen it with our own eyes. We've lost family members to it. So, honestly, that is something that everybody should know. There's a little history lesson for you there of day one of what the Islamic Republic of Iran did. Day one. Before they even came to power, they boarded a cinema and put it on fire with people inside. Before they even came to power. That was day one. And for 47 years, the cowards and the rats of the Islamic Republic of Iran haven't changed. They became more vicious with their delusional power. May AI tells, honestly, that's everything, that's something that everybody should know about. Why would anyone say that the US, my AI tells me she loves me every once in a while after a response? Fair enough, Ray. Is Mujahideen dangerous more than, yes, Mujahideen is even more treacherous. Honestly, the only option is Reza Pahlavi. We need to go back to the king of Iran. The Mujahideen group, who is paying a few American politicians right now, they were the ones to kick out the Shah and try to replace him. And then these essentially mullahs came and replaced essentially the Mujahideen group. They're even worse. The only people that can change Iran for the better and change the Middle East for the better is the Shah. The Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, is the only option and will always be the only option. Why is Israel attacking Lebanon? Because of the terror groups Iran has created in Lebanon. Very cowardly action for sure. Facts, honestly. I don't know anyone that's ever done that. Churchill never used hospitals and school playgrounds for political meetings during World War One and Two. But what kind of a coward uses a school for political grounds? So that when they do get attacked, they can say, oh, they attacked the school. No, they attacked the school that you were hiding in, you coward. Honestly, people don't really understand what the Islamic Republic of Iran is. Saying they're a cancer is being too kind to cancer. But everybody had a little history lesson right there of what they're really capable of. Why is Israel very cowardly? Yeah, for sure. Miles, will you say Zionist is a good thing? Sure. Tucker Carlson saying Israel is a liar when he's saying all that. Tucker Carlson is being paid off by Qatar. Qatar gets their money from the Islamic Republic of Iran. There's also a life lesson there for you as well. US dollar surge is what we talk about next on tonight's live, and also regarding the escalations that's going on. So, the US dollar surge essentially pressures crypto and gold following escalations in Iran conflicts. The US dollar has experienced a sharp surge in value, exerting essentially significant downward pressure on both the cryptocurrency and gold markets as the conflict in Iran escalates. As geopolitical tensions reach essentially a fever pitch, investors are pivoting towards greenback, the ultimate safe haven asset, which is why we had a 700% surge in US dollar stablecoins, especially in Iran, the moment essentially those strikes happened. The digital gold narrative that has supported Bitcoin in recent weeks, this flight to crash essentially has led to synchronized sell-offs across various assets and classes as the global financial plumbing essentially reacts to sudden risk of a broader regional war and its potential impact on energy supplies. The strengthening dollar has created a challenging environment for assets traditionally used as a hedge against inflation or instability. The rapid rise in the dollar index right now is sucking liquidity out of risk markets, forcing traders to liquidate their crypto positions to cover margins or move into preserved safe, essentially, or short-term US treasuries. Gold depegging. Surprisingly, even gold has struggled to maintain its footing against the rampant dollar, as the sheer demand for liquid cash outpaces the traditional move into precious metals during initial stages of connected conflict. Stablecoin stress. The surge in dollar is also putting a spotlight in the utility area infrastructure as demand for US dollar pegged stablecoin spikes globally, testing the redemption essentially capabilities and reserve transparencies of major issuers. Market analysts suggest that while the current dollar dominance is a standard knee jerk essential reaction to wartime escalation, the long term essentially outlook remains clouded by the threat of persistent inflation. If the conflict leads to a sustained increase in oil prices, the resulting economic strain may eventually weaken the dollar's appeal, essentially potentially reigniting interest in decentralized assets. For now, however, the digital asset market remains at the mercy of the macro environment, with Bitcoin and Ethereum attempting to find support levels amidst the sea of green US dollars. Right now, the US dollar is doing exceptionally well for itself. It's definitely being seen as the number one safe haven asset right now, by far, you could even say. Now, moving on from that to Australia. Now, we don't talk about Australia that much, essentially, on this live show, but there's a few things happening, and one of the major ones is this that I want to share with you. So, Australia is apparently risk missing out on a $24 billion digital finance opportunity. A new report suggests that Australia stands at a critical crossroads with the potential to unlock approximately $24 billion Australian dollars in economic gains through a full scale adoption of digital finance. However, current projections indicate that the nation is on track to realize only AUD's $1 billion of potential as the combination of regulatory hesitation and slow infrastructure developments hampers progress. The findings emphasize that while the country essentially has the technical talent to lead in the utility era, it is currently failing to build the necessary financial plumbing to support a modern tokenized economy. Now, this report is coming from OKX Exchange, saying that Australia has a $24 billion essentially economy that could enter the tokenization market space. The report highlights several key areas where this disconnect between potential and reality is the most prominent. A lack of comprehensive, clear legislations for digital assets has caused many domestic firms to move their operations offshore, draining local ecosystems of innovation and tax revenue. While other global hubs are aggressively tokenizing real world assets like real estate and debt, Australia's traditional financial sector has been slow to integrate these protocols into its core settlement systems. And the industry, essentially, and the study points to a need for more robust digital dollar or regulated stablecoin framework to facilitate the high speed programmable transaction required to compete on a global scale. To bridge this $24 billion gap, Australian dollars, analysts argue that the Australian government must pivot from a cautious and wait and see approach to a more proactive pro growth strategy. This would essentially involve the rapid implementation of a Genius Act style and standards that are renowned focus on public private partnerships to modernize the national payment rails without a decisive shift in policy. Experts also warn that Australia risks becoming a secondary player in the rapidly evolving global digital landscape, ceding its competitive advantage to more agile regional neighbors. Australia can become an absolute powerhouse also inside the crypto sector if they just stopped moving at a snail's pace to move a lot more faster. Now, moving away from Australia to the US Senate housing bill. This was an interesting one, this one I'm about to show you now, because there's a reason why this particular agency can't create CBDCs, and it opens the door for another one to be able to. So, this is what I mean by that. The US Senate housing bill essentially includes a provision to ban central bank digital currencies. A new housing focused bill introduced in the US Senate has sparked intense debate within the financial sector by including essentially a strategic provision that would effectively ban the issuance of a central bank digital currency CBDC. The lawmakers behind the inclusion argue that a digital dollar could grant the federal government unprecedented surveillance over personal financial transactions and potentially destabilize the commercial banking system. This legislative maneuver reflects a growing political resistance to state controlled digital assets, favoring instead the utility era model for private sector innovation and regulated stablecoins as the primary drivers of American financial evolution. The inclusion of a CBDC ban within the broader housing package highlights the deepening ideological divide over the future of the nation's financial plumbing. Privacy protections. Proponents of the ban contend that a CBDC would eliminate the enormity of cash, allowing for programmable economies where the government could monitor or restrict spending on specific goods and services. There are also concerns that a direct to consumer digital dollar will drain deposits from local and regional banks, weakening their ability to provide the mortgages and small business loans that the housing bill is intended to support. By blocking a state run, essentially competitor, the bill essentially clears a path for regulated private sector digital dollars, which many lawmakers essentially believe offer better safeguards for innovation and consumer choices. Opponents of the ban essentially argue that such a move could leave the United States at a disadvantage as other global powers such as China and essentially the European Union move forward with their own sovereign digital currencies. This suggests that a CBDC is necessary evolution of a legacy financial system to maintain the dollar status as the global reserve currency for a 24/7 digital world. As the bill moves through committees, the outcome will serve as a definitive signal on whether the US intends to build this future infrastructure on public central bank essentially rails or a decentralized private sector framework. And what essentially that means by that is that good, that the Fed is not allowed to create a CBDC. Good. Because the bill doesn't state that nobody's allowed to create a CBDC in the US. It's just that the Fed is not allowed to create a CBDC, which opens the door for, in their own words, private sector, decentralized private sector frameworks to be the CBDC backbone, which means Ripple can create a CBDC for the US government, and that the Fed is being blocked by doing so. Good. If the Fed is blocked, then Ripple will obviously be stepping in for the CBDC backbone. If the Fed is not blocked, the Fed is still going to be using Ripple essentially as a CBDC backbone. Either way we go, a CBDC will exist, and either way we go, Ripple will be the one leading it. Now, on the topic of Ripple, Ripple revolutionizes global payments with comprehensive end-to-end stablecoin platforms. So on the topic of CBDCs and Ripple and stablecoins, Ripple has officially unveiled its end-to-end stablecoin platform, a street move designed to integrate the stability of fiat-backed assets with essentially the speed and efficiency of the XRP ledger. By providing a full life scale solution ranging from minting and custody to compliance and distribution, Ripple aims to simplify how businesses and financial institutions issue and manage their own digital assets. This platform is positioned as a foundational layer for the utility era, ensuring that the financial plumbing of tomorrow can support 24/7 global settlements without the volatility often associated with unbanked cryptocurrencies. The launch focuses on providing a secure enterprise grade environment for institutional stablecoin adoption. The platform is built to work across multiple chains, allowing essentially stablecoin issued via Ripple to move essentially fluidly between the XRP ledger and other major blockchains, enhancing global liquidity. Compliance first design. Integrated regulatory essential tools ensure that every asset issued meets a rigorous anti-money laundering law, and AML in other words, and know your customers, KYC standards, addressing the primary concerns of tier one banks, high-speed settlements. By essentially leveraging the essentially native capabilities of the XRP ledger, the platform enables near instant transactions, significantly reducing the cost and time essentially involved in the traditional cross-border payment corridors. This evolution marks a shift from Ripple being just a provider of liquidity to become a comprehensive infrastructure architect for the digital economy. By empowering third-party issuers to launch their own regulated stablecoins, Ripple is fostering a more diverse and resilient ecosystem on the XRP ledger. Industry analysts believe that this end-to-end approach will accelerate the flipping of switches for global institutional adoption, as it provides a clear regulated path for moving trillions of dollars in traditional value onto the blockchain. Once again, Ripple providing a utility for the crypto space through the XRP ledger for institutions and governments to bring trillions of dollars into the market space. I mean, by far, They will always take the crown. The XRP ledger, Ripple, XRP, RLUSD by far will always take the crown when it comes to essentially finance. There's just nobody else like them inside the crypto space. And people may argue, yes, there is, but the reality of it is, no, there isn't. There just isn't. Yes, there are other financial projects inside the crypto space that are also excellent, but Ripple, everybody else in finance. There's just no comparison. On that note, we have also reached the endings of tonight's live. Now, this was a very impactful live show. There was a lot that I needed to get off my chest, and there was a lot happening as well. That's why this live show has ran for 2 hours. Normally, this live show is like 1 hour 10, 1 hour 20 max. But it's because, on the weekend, I was celebrating my birthday and the beginning of, freedom for my country and everything else. So, so much to get off. There's so much to essentially share on this live show, which I did. This was the CMF live show, stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live show Monday to Friday, 10 p.m., long time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much everything you need to know about regarding what's happening around the world. Disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, no political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So before we do go, obviously, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we will call it a night. Let's see where we're at. Can you explain how tokenization works to increase the token's price like Ondo? Tokenization doesn't indirectly would increase the price of Ondo, because if more essential properties, let's say in this instance, get tokenized on Ondo, then it's going to add value to Ondo's essentially chain, and more people will probably interact to buy properties, let's say, that are tokenized properties on Ondo. That will bring more liquidity towards Ondo. That will also essentially increase the price of Ondo itself. So it brings indirect value. Thanks, Miles. It brings indirect value to the token, but direct value to the chain. Good night, Miles. Good night, Miles. And on CMF, thank you for great news and live. Let's go, JP. See you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Good night, Miles. Great show. I shared your link to my twin brothers to check MXC platform. We will follow your advice about it. And I can't wait to see XRP go up. Let's see how XRP reacts. Let's go, Carl. See you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. No problem, Crypto Qs. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. I'm so glad you had a wonderful birthday weekend. Let's go, Stormy. Thank you so much. And see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great life, brother. Happy birthday. Let's go, come on, toast. It's great to be back, honestly. I missed doing a live show. I missed all of you as well, as as I always do, 100%. Thanks, Miles. Stormy, let's go. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Come to see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Thank you, Miles. Have a lovely night. Oh, let's go, Lena. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. That was well worth the wait over the weekend. Cheers, mate. And I will see you again tomorrow. Let's go, Addy. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Great passion, Miles. Thank you and good night. Miles and CMF, let's go. Jason, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Good night, everyone. Let's go, Stormy. Very impactful live indeed, especially after such a big weekend. Take care, Miles and CMF. Let's go, Ray. See you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Thank you, Miles, brother. Let's go, T. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Miles, who published the info about the Iranian school. Miles, who published that info about the Iranian school. Watch the live show. I talk about the Iranian school situation. It wasn't the US or Israel. It was the Islamic Republic of Iran. They hit their own school in their own country and blamed it on the US and Israel. I know what they're capable of, and so does every other Iranian out there. The Iranian government is a weasel and a coward. Thank you so much appreciated. Let's go, Shelly, and see you tomorrow. Let's go, Shelly. Shelly, see you tomorrow, sometimes you as well. Miles, thanks again. I really appreciate your services that provide a crypto space. Let's go, Thompson. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Good night, Miles. Let's go, Mike. See you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Just want to say thank you so much to everybody who tuned in from the CMF. Thank you so much to everybody who liked and essentially retweeted this live show if you watch this on X. And thank you so much to everybody who's also retweeted, essentially liked the live show if you watch this on YouTube. And if you followed and subscribed to me during this live show as well, thank you so much and welcome to the CMF. I will see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Just once again, I want to say thank you, Trump, and thank you to the US military, and thank you to Israel as well for helping the people of Iran to be free from this cancerous, treacherous, vicious, coward regime. Thank you so much, Trump. Thank you so much, US military, and thank you so much to Israel and Bibi Netanyahu. Oh yeah, happy post birthday bills. That's good. Thompson, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. Love you. See you tomorrow, same time as usual.